Well done.
Hi, Bert.
Hello, Hardy.
Good
Hey,
to see
Michael.
you.
Bert. What's up, John?
Hey.
Least surprising news yesterday that Jacoby Brissett was named not just the
Yeah.
starting quarterback for Week 1, but he is the starting quarterback for the season for the Patriots.
We'll see. I mean, I like that. History tells us we're going to see Drake Maye.
Yes, and Gerard Mayo told us we're going to see Drake Maye. What is good for the start of the season is not necessarily good for 6 weeks from now. He's told us all this, multiple times, and he's told us through the practice reps and through the preseason games. Everything has been told to us that Jacoby Brissett will be the guy at least for Week 1 and probably a little bit beyond. If you dig down, though, and try and figure out why people are so upset about this or surprised, which to me is just, I can't wrap my head around that, how you could be surprised, but the anger, what lies at the heart of the anger that people have about this?
I think most people want, look, it's an entertainment product. And what's most entertaining is seeing a guy who could be the quarterback for the next 15 years. I think when you look in the preseason, and obviously not so much the Carolina game, but the Philadelphia game, the Washington game, you can see why he was the third overall pick. I think you can also see why he's sort of, like the analogy in the spring was the puppy. Like you can see the big paws. You can see sort of what he's going to become. But he's also all over the place and a little, frantic and everything else. And so there's a growth process there. But look, every fan base wants to see a guy that was drafted that high that could bring that level of excitement in time. And it's the Patriots' job to be patient with this. I just think it's so interesting because, not only history emphatically tells us we're going to see him. If you look at it, and I keep a chart, you guys may have seen this chart. That I put it up. Yeah, I've showed it to you guys before. When every quarterback over the last going all the way back to 2000 got their first start. And so over the last 16 draft cycles, so that's not counting this year from 08 to 23, the last 16 draft cycles, 48 quarterbacks have gone in the first round. Only 3 have been true redshirts. Those 3 true redshirts were Jake Locker in 11, Patrick Mahomes in 17, and you're fudging it even a little bit there because he started the last game of the year, but really, for all intents and purposes, a red shirt. And then Jordan Love in 2020. So 3 out of 48 got a full red shirt year. And what did those 3 guys have in common? Well, they had 2 things in common because obviously Locker didn't get the results that Love got, and Love hasn't gotten near the results yet that Mahomes got. So it's 2 things. Number one, all 3 of those guys played on teams that contended to the very end. Even that Titans team in 11 was in it till the very end. They finished 9-7, missed the playoffs. Obviously, the Packers and Chiefs were really good teams those years that Love and Mahomes were rookies. Second thing they had in common, they had established quarterbacks who had led Super Bowl teams. Matt Hasselbeck in Tennessee, Alex Smith in Kansas City, and Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. So, those 2 things were in place, and that's why those teams had the flexibility to sit those guys for the entire year, because not only was the public not screaming for those guys to come in, but the locker room was content with the guy who was their starting quarterback because it was a guy who had skins in the wall, which to me right now is the advantage Atlanta has. Atlanta has true flexibility to sit Michael Penix for the whole year because no one in that locker room is going to question whether or not Kirk Cousins can get it done. They know he can get it done. They've seen it. It's demonstrated. And I've made this point a lot. Almost it's these teams a lot of times can buckle to public pressure that happens. But there's also the internal pressure and the pressure that comes from the locker room. And the reality of it is your locker room does not care about your 3-year plan at quarterback because the reality in the NFL is that 80 to 90% of guys in every locker room don't know what team they're going to be on next year. And what they care about is what's going to be the best thing for me to win this year, to perform individually this year, so I'm going to be in position to continue my career, whether it's here or somewhere else. And they want the guy in there who's going to give them the best chance to do it. And in a lot of cases, these quarterbacks, these young quarterbacks go to bad teams, and I know I'm being long-winded with this.
No.
But these quarterbacks go to bad teams where there's not an established veteran, and there comes a point in the season where they are the best option for their team.
Were there any Drake people in the building who said, I know they're all Drake people with the Patriots, but Drake people in the building, whether coaching staff, players, ownership, who were causing a little bit of tension? Hey, we got to play him, and there's a little back and forth. Any pushback? Or do you think this was unanimous? Put Jacoby in there, and then we'll deal with Drake later.
I think I'm not like covering for anybody when I say I think that they are in lockstep on this. And there have been obviously disagreements on other things in the building over the course of the last year and everything else. But I think that this is something that they have been in lockstep on because the plan has been in place since they drafted Drake Maye. They knew what they were drafting, which was a guy who needed time and a guy who, of the 6 quarterbacks that were taken in the first round, I'd say was easily the most raw of the 6. Easily had the longest way to go. Now you're comparing him to a guy in Bo Nix who had 61 college starts, a guy in Jaden Daniels who had 55 college starts.
And they're both 3 years older than him.
Right. Like they're 3 years older. Well, Penix is 3 years, Nix is 2.5, whatever. But both those guys were multi-year starters in multiple programs.
Shopping for programs.
Right, right. So you knew what you were drafting. And so this has been the plan all along. And I actually think what opened the door the last couple of weeks wasn't how Drake plays, how Jacoby played. It was you looked at it out there and it's is our offense running properly? And, I think for Alex Van Pelt and the offensive staff to some degree, it was looking at it and the Jacoby that they had in Cleveland 2 years ago, right? Who was surrounded by Jack Conklin and Jedrick Wills and David Njoku and Amari Cooper and Nick Chubb. And it looked like a different Jacoby Brissett 2 years ago. Well, part of that was because Cleveland had a lot more around him.
Okay, so and you kind of answered the question there, but it's is the offense running properly out there? Interchangeably between either Jacoby Brissett or the reps that Drake Maye was getting with this. No, and that we're just this was last night. Wallach, you had had that report that the absentee list for the Patriots at practice yesterday.
Vidarian Lowe and City Sell both at practice, missed practice yesterday. The projected starting left side of the offensive line.
Right. So you've got an offensive line that is still a work in progress. You've got the rest of the offense that doesn't have anything approaching, a stable foundation for anyone to go in and work. Now, let me play devil's advocate for a second because this is what the Drake Maye people will say. How is he going to get any better standing on the sideline? How's he going to get any better in the short amount of practice that they get? Because it really is, the practice week for these teams is not intense. By the time you get done, with the game on Sunday and your film on Monday and your day off on Tuesday, how does he get ready now that the season is about to begin?
He gets ready, and I think there's a good story on Mahomes here, right? On how Mahomes did it, and it's. So there's so many things that are so impressive about Patrick Mahomes' rookie year. I can remember being on the field. The Patriots played the Chiefs in the opener that year. There's a Thursday night opener. The Patriots were coming off winning the Super Bowl, and I remember standing on the field with Brett Veach, who's the Chiefs GM now, and I can't remember if he was the general manager at the time. He may have just got the GM job, but he pulled out his phone and he showed me video of Mahomes from practice.
Okay,
and I swear to God, the video it looked fake. Right. And then I went over to a couple of other Chiefs guys that I knew. And this was, a couple hours before the game, a couple of their front office guys. And they had video of something that Mahomes did in practice. Oh my, you gotta see this. You know what I mean? And so Mahomes had obviously impressed them. He also threw a lot of picks in practice that first summer. If you can Google it, there was a practice where I think he threw 10 interceptions, something wild.
In a practice?
In a practice, yeah. There was an interception where he threw 10 interceptions, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, so he had to figure it out, right? But he kept chipping away at it. And I thought one of the coolest stories I remember hearing about Patrick Mahomes was, he would run the scout team. and they would give him maybe a rep or two with the Chiefs offense, but he really wasn't doing much with the Chiefs offense. He was in meetings and everything else that rookie year. So after practice, he would keep guys after to basically go through their team period again and run their what they were doing during their team period again, so he could get the reps actually running the Chiefs offense instead of running the opponent's offense, right? Like what he was doing on the scout team. So he never once asked Tyreek Hill to stay after with him. He never once asked Chris Conley to stay after with him. He never once asked Kareem Hunt to stay after with him. You know why? Because those were Alex Smith's guys. So he had gotten the younger guys who weren't playing, that were deep on he had gotten all of those guys, and those guys followed him because they knew Patrick Mahomes is doing everything the right way. And I remember it was Matt Nagy I was talking to about this. He was the offensive coordinator that year. It was right before he went to Chicago. He said, I knew he was going to make it. And I said, why do you say that? He's like, when I saw that, I knew he was going to make it, because he understood the dynamic of the locker room. And he understood those were Alex Smith's guys. And he understood that if he had even asked one of those guys to stay after practice with him, like that could have caused a problem. And he's like, I knew Patrick Mahomes was going to make it then, because I knew he had the talent, but he also understood the dynamic of the team. He understood the position of quarterback, both being the backup and the starter. He understood how he would affect the starter if he was doing, and he wasn't going to do that. And that's why Alex Smith and Patrick Mahomes have such a strong relationship.
Well,
so it's things like that. Like that's what Drake Maye is going to have to do. He's going to have to thread that needle.
Well, Hardy and Bert, I'm not saying that Drake Maye has Patrick Mahomes characteristics. I'm not saying that. But I wonder if he has something. Does he have leadership? Do the people who look at him, and I'm not just talking about with the Patriots, in the draft process, does somebody look at him and say, I love that kid. Give me 2 years with him, and he's going to be a top 5 quarterback in football because he's smart and he draws people to him. Did anybody say that about him? I need to hear that.
I would also like to know how Drake Maye, not that he needs to follow that template that you just laid out, Bert, but how do you figure out a dynamic in a locker room that probably doesn't have one? I mean, you've got Jacoby Brissett back. You've got a new head coach. You've got a new offensive coordinator. Like, what's the dynamic? I don't know. We're making it up as we go.
So look, this is just like I was going through with a couple of people over there the development plan. One thing I got from somebody there was like, this was unprompted. It was just like kind of like talking to them about like what they're doing and everything else going back and forth this week. And the last thing unprompted, was he's definitely going to be a guy.
Okay.
And I think like there is this feeling that his development has come steady. And I like, for as many shots as Alex Van Pelt and Ben McAdoo and T.C. McCartney and the guys who are running the offense down there now have taken, doesn't it look like it's working?
Yeah.
Like if you look at his performance, like week over week,
he looks like an NFL quarterback based on what we saw in those 3 preseason games. It's starting
to like again, and the way they're sequencing it, like I'm just telling you, like this is where the experience. And I know people don't get excited about Alex Van Pelt, and I love Zach Robinson, right? Like, and I love Nick Caley, and I understand why people would have been excited about those guys coming here. I get that, right? But Alex Van Pelt played quarterback in the league. You know what I mean? Like Alex Van Pelt's been around great quarterbacks. He was around Aaron Rodgers. He was around as a player, Jim Kelly, right? Ben McAdoo coached Aaron Rodgers. Like they've seen what it looks like. And I just think that like having that background, having worked with those different guys, like having in Cleveland, like Alex Van Pelt, like had to work with a number 1 overall pick, right? Like here, go work with Baker Mayfield, right? And then he had to manage the Deshaun Watson, Jacoby Brissett situation in 22, right? Then last year he has to go through and work with all these different quarterbacks. I think the volume of stuff that their staff has seen at that position allows them to put together a plan that's based on like everything they've seen from all of these different quarterbacks. And I do think like if you look at the way that they sequenced it and the way Drake came along in the 3 preseason games, there's plenty of reason for hope.
If you like that clip, and how could you not, check out more videos from Toucher and Hardy here, point slightly up and to the left. For more Patriots analysis and opinion, hit this playlist. Point slightly down and to the left. And for the latest from the Sports Hub, download at 985thesportshub.com.